ahadith ad-da'if which did not receive these kind of extra helps and extra strength, but still they were not conflicting with other ahadith sahiha, and they had no dispute and contradiction with ahadith sahiha, and there is only this hadith available on that particular subject, only this hadith available on particular subject. It remains da'if with minor ailments, not those two ailments of cancer and hepatitis C, yani al-kazib or ittihamul kazib, tuhmatul kazib, lying or charge and allegation of lying. Except these two sicknesses, diseases, rest other ailments were there, either of other ailments was there, and she couldn't get extra strength so that it may be promoted. It remained da'if, since there is no other hadith sahih available on that particular subject. Since there is no other particular evidence, other particular hadith on that particular subject which possesses the status of Hasan or Sahih. This is the only hadith on that subject without any contradiction. So this hadith being da'if would also be accepted. This is known as receivable or practicable. Yu'amal bihi, yusta'amal, practicable. This would be qabilul amal. Even being da'if without any other external strengthening elements, supports. Since there is no contradiction with hadith sahih and no other hadith on that particular subject of higher grade is available. That's why this hadith, in spite of being da'if, would be acceptable according to the majority of a'immah of hadith. And there are many ahkam. I will come to the difference of ahkam and fadail, but there are certain ahkam in sharia, ahkam like mustahab and ghair mustahab. They have only just evidence of hadith da'if and nothing else, and still all fuqaha have accepted them, those ahadith. So this would be totally wrong to say that if there is any hadith just da'if, having no external support, no external strength, no reason for upgradation, this is just da'if, and that's why it should be rejected. No, answer is no. Even then it would not be rejected, because there are already two conditions. There is no contradiction with usul, no contradiction with hadith sahih, and no other higher tradition is available other than that on that particular subject. So a'immah say it is much better to act upon analogy. It is better to act on hadith da'if. Now what is left for you? After that, only analogy, only qiyas, your reasoning is left. So there are scholars who say that instead of going to reasoning and decide that particular matter with reasoning, with analogy, it is much better and appropriate and much safe that you should at least act upon the hadith. Because this is da'if, this is not mawdu. This is not fabricated. This is not forged one. This is not fabricated, this is just a sick. If you get any other hadith higher in grade and higher in rank and more sound and strong in its qualities, go to that hadith. And if on that particular subject no other hadith of higher qualification is available, this is the only available one, so it should be accepted. Now, maybe 13 kinds of sicknesses will be covered in this hukum, legal effect. Only two would remain, al-kazib and tuhmatul kazib. If any transmitter is a liar or there is a clear allegation of lying against him. So these two would be excluded from receivability and from practicability, from acceptability. And 13 kinds of sicknesses would be cured or would be accepted with certain conditions, with certain shurut conditions. So concluding that hadith da'if would be having two categories, the receivable and irreceivable, practicable and impracticable. Hadith da'if allowed to be practiced and disallowed to be practiced. These would be two categories. 13 categories out of 15, 13 out of 15 come under the category of receivable. There is a probability of being receivable, probability of being allowed for accepting for practice. And only two, and according to some, maybe three. Only two, and it can be extended, this number can be extended up to just three reasons and causes. They come under irreceivable, impracticable, and disallowed for practice. And 12 to 13 categories in hadith da'if would come within the purview of receivability, within the purview of permission. They are permitted for practice. This is the khulasa, the brief summary of hadith da'if. Now, the reasons, the causes which make a chain of transmitter da'if. There can be two basic reasons. Now we are talking of the sickness, the ailments, the reasons which make an isnad da'if. Either it would be related to isnad, the quality of chain, or it would be related to the transmitter, the person who transmits. Either the quality of chain, isnad, there would be some criticism on isnad's quality, or there would be some criticism or some ailment in the transmitter's person, the transmitter himself. So either there would be any problem of missing link. What would be the problem in chain? Any link would be missing. Any broken link, any gap in the link in isnad. Either that may be the reason of making any isnad of hadith da'if, or any ailment or any problem which will occur in the transmitter's personality. The person of transmitter related to Ravi, Tan, Fir Ravi. These are two major reasons. And when we go further, the reasons which are related to isnad, based on isnad, there are 5 kinds of al-hadith ad-da'if. Because of some ailment, some missing link, some breakage in chain, because of this problem, 5 kinds of al-hadith ad-da'if come into existence. If the problem is related to isnad, the continuity of isnad, and there is something missing over there, then 5 ahadith da'ifa come within this purview, and they are known as al-mu'allaq, suspended, or they are known as al-mursal, they are incomplete. Now I am not defining intentionally, because you will get confused with a very vast, you can say, an ocean of things. Al-mu'allaq or al-mursal or al-munqati' or al-maqtu', al-mu'dal and al-mudallas. In fact, this becomes 6. If we differentiate between maqtu' and munqati', it becomes 6 kinds of al-hadith al-da'if, and da'f is based on isnad, quality of isnad. The question of continuity or discontinuity. Al-mu'allaq, these are mu'allaqat. Basically, this is a da'af. Ta'liq is a da'af, is a weakness. But in spite of this weakness, Imam Bukhari has not considered this in da'if. He has taken al-mu'allaqat in his al-jami' as-sahih. Now those who just say, we don't want anything other than Bukhari. No, I am telling, there are hundreds of al-mu'allaqat. And this is a specific subject, ta'liqatul Bukhari. He has reported many ahadith ta'liqan. Why? Because at other places he has brought tawabi and shawahid. He has the support. He has the treatment to remove that ailment, so that does not remain sick. Some scholars like Imam Darqutni and many others, they criticized Imam Bukhari for certain reasons, and Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani and others, they went on defending him. So there are ta'liqat, mu'allaqat are in Bukhari. But Imam Muslim has not taken so much mu'allaqat. He does not take mu'allaqat in his book. That's why Maghareba, the scholars of Maghrib, Maghrib doesn't mean America and England, Maghrib. Al-Maghareba, they used to prefer Sahih Muslim to Bukhari. There was a point of view that they used to place Sahih al-Muslim at number 1 and Bukhari number 2. But majority of the ummah, yani ummah means the aimma and the scholars, they decided no, Bukhari possesses asahul kutub ba'da kitabillah al-bari al-jami' as-sahih al-Bukhari. The first number goes to Bukhari and then to Sahih Muslim. But both are in Seha more or less at equal level. They have their own characteristics. Al-Mu'allaq, primarily this is a da'af. Now because I am giving you 16 kinds of hadith ad-da'if, and the first kind in hadith ad-da'if is mu'allaq, and there are more than 200 mu'allaqat in Sahih Bukhari. More than 200 ta'liqat, mu'allaqat in Bukhari. But still they are not da'if. Although originally this comes within the purview of da'af, hadith da'if, but still it is not da'if because Imam Bukhari has taken it along with the support of tawabi and shawahid at various chapters of hadith of Sahih Bukhari. So this is how da'if does not remain da'if for certain reasons. This is how it becomes strong with external evidences and supports. So second is mursal, al-mursalat. The third is maqtu. The fourth is munqati. And fifth kind of hadith ad-da'if is al-mu'dal. So these are 6 kinds of al-hadith ad-da'if, which the da'af of these 6 kinds is based on the quality of continuity of chain. Isnad. Since they are removed by certain other tawabi and evidences and they get strength, so most of them can be removed. Mursalat can be removed. There are many mursalat of Sahaba and mursalat of Tabi'een, Kibar. They are known to be hujjah, authentic and authority. And still they are mursalat. And they are sahih. Some of the scholars, they don't consider them in da'af. But these are primarily, basically they fall within the purview of da'if. 6 kinds and now another 10 kinds of al-hadith ad-da'if, which are due to some reason criticism on the personality of rawi, personality of the transmitter. And when we talk the criticism on transmitter, this is the reason for 10 kinds, the criticism on the transmitter. So this reason is again divided into 2 classes. two kinds. One kind is kind of criticism which is related to the honesty and trustworthiness of transmitter. One is related to the honesty and trustworthiness of translator, related to adalatur ravi, adalatur ruwat. One criticism just on his honesty, on his trustworthiness, whether he is thiqa, reliable or not, trustworthy or not, whether he is adil or not. And number two, second category of criticism is related just to memory of the ruwat, memory of transmitters, related to the dabt. These are two kinds of criticism. Either it would be related to the trustworthiness of transmitters, or it would be related to the memory of transmitter. If it is related to the trustworthiness of, if it is related to trustworthiness and adala of transmitter, then because of this reason there would be 5 kinds of al-hadith ad-da'if. And there are 5 kinds of criticism. 5 kinds of criticism. One is fahshu ghalatir ravi. Yani severe blunder of transmitter. Fahshu ghalatir ravi. It is a severe blunder of a transmitter. One. Second would be, no, this is, before this is related to memory. Let me tell first of all the trustworthiness. Or is better, we should start from the minor thing, the lower thing. So, the criticism on memory of the transmitter, write down this word. I am taking first the criticism on the memory, dabt of ravi. It will create 5 kinds of hadith ad-da'if. If the criticism is on the memory of transmitter, not on his trustworthiness. No, just memory. So first kind of the criticism or first kind of ailment or first kind of weakness would be fuhsh ghalatir ravi. He is fahish in his ghalat, in memory. He commits blunders, big blunders because of weakness of his memory. Commits big blunders. Number 2, kasratu ghaflatehi. Kasratu ghaflatehi. His carelessness. And he transmits carelessly, frequently. Frequent carelessness. You see, very significant thing. Not just carelessness. Frequent. Kasrat. Off and on. Very often. He does mistakes in memory, because of memory. Number 3, wahm. He is confused. So because of his confusion, he sometimes mixes the things. He is not clear-headed. He is sometimes doubtful. He has some doubts in his mind, in transmission, in chain, or in the text. So he is wahm. Number 4 would be mukhalafatun lis-siqat. Mukhalafa lis-siqat. He transmits a thing because of the weakness of his memory, which is sometimes against the tradition transmitted by awthaq or siqat, which is sometimes, he transmits sometimes a thing which is against other thiqa, trustworthy ruwat, transmitters, and there are more in number. In 2, 3, 4 or 5 transmitters, they are also reliable. They are transmitting something else, and he is transmitting something different from him, contradictory from them. So this contradiction, mukhalafa. And third, su'ul hifz, or su'u hifzihi. There is some problem, there is some weakness in his memory, common weakness of memory. Common weakness of memory. So these are 5 reasons on which the criticism on memory of transmitter is based. So when either of these 5 reasons would be found, then the muhaddiseen have given different names to ahadith da'ifa. Hadith da'if gets separate name because of each ailment which is found in connection of his memory. So the hadith of da'ifa get separate names, different names. And now in the same way, there are 5 kinds of criticism on the honesty and trustworthy of transmitter. On personality, his trustworthiness, his honesty, his person, that was just related to his memory. There was nothing wrong in his trustworthiness, nothing wrong in his piety, nothing wrong in his being truthful. He possesses truthfulness. He may be a pious person. He is not a liar. He possesses all good qualities. But only these 5 kinds of problems exist in his memory. That's why there are some weaknesses in his transmission. And this may occur just in one, as I told, out of the whole chain. Maybe rest of the transmitters in the whole chain are absolutely having nice memory. Only because of one, that would be known as da'if. And I have already explained, since this is the reason, if this problem is resolved and cured through other supports and strengthening elements, then da'if would be upgraded and that is acceptable. And you have not to provide the medicine. All medicines have been already provided by the A'immah of Hadith. Everything is clearly written down, noted down in the books. Another 5 kinds of criticism on the person of Ravi, trustworthiness and honesty and truthfulness of Ravi. One is Al-Kazib. He is known as Kazzab. He is a liar first. So I told you, if it is established that this person is a liar, so transmission from him would be rejected. And these 5 kinds which I have already explained, they are not totally rejectable. I told you, since nothing is wrong with the transmitter except a minor problem or a major problem in his memory, so that can be cured. These are the hadiths which can be easily upgraded and promoted, which can be made receivable, acceptable. These can be made good for practice. The only riwayah or the chain of transmitter which consists even at a single place, someone who is known as Kazib or Kazzab, that would be rejected. And that riwayah would be known as Mawdu. It would be rejected. And the second one is Tuhmatul Kazib, Tuhma, Ittihamul Kazib. He is Muttaham bil Kazib. There is an allegation against him, a sound allegation, sound accusation of lying against him. If this disease is found in transmitter, so the tradition reported and transmitted by him would be known as matruk. So out of 15 kinds, 16 kinds of hadith da'if, I have differentiated only 2. If any one transmitter is liar, his transmission or report would be known as, because of kazib, would be known as maudu. So maybe it was not maudu. There is a possibility. And here is Allama Zahabi. Imam Zahabi, one of the great scientists and scholars and authorities on Usulul Hadith. He writes in his book Al-Muqizah, and some other scholars too, they say that if he is Kazib, Kazab, how would you know that he is Kazab? Then they say from his own acceptance and from other evidences. He say, maybe when he said that I lied when I transmitted that hadith, they say maybe second time he is lying and the first time when he transmitted he was right. So there is a possibility and probability that whatever he transmitted, that can be right. This is also a section in Usulul Hadith. You cannot rule out the possibility and probability of being the text correct. If he is a liar, it does not mean that he uttered 100 things, 100 statements. Being a liar, does it mean that all of 100 traditions which he narrated, each and every one is fabricated? Does it mean necessarily? No. Maybe 90 of them are lie, fabricated, and 10 of them are correct. Maybe 20 are correct and 80 of them are. And being a liar doesn't mean that each and every single word or sentence which he utters from his mouth throughout his life, that is fabrication, that is lie, doesn't mean. So even then there is a possibility and probability of being correct transmission. But just for the sake of care, security, protection, guarantee, and to remove all kinds of doubts and suspicions about the process of transmission of the hadith of Holy Prophet, just for the sake of sanctity of hadith of Holy Prophet, Muhaddiseen has regarded him and his transmission in mawzu. This is an extraordinary precaution taken by the Muhaddiseen, and just for the sake of sanctity of hadith of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Although the probability and the possibility, it cannot be ruled out. And if there is an allegation, an accusation of lying against someone, tuhmah of kadhib, then whatever he has transmitted, his transmission would be known as matruk. So Muhaddiseen say this would also be rejected. Only these two would be rejected. Then is fisk. If he commits some big sins, the Aima and Muhaddiseen say he has committed some big sins. That's why in his character, in his integrity, in his piety, here lies a problem in his piety. But still there is a possibility that he never tells a lie. He has a bad habit. But it doesn't mean that one bad habit definitely will bring other bad habit too, that he is a liar also. He committed big sins, but he never lied in his life. There is a possibility. All these things have been minutely discussed by the Aima and authorities. Each and every possibility has been taken care of. So fisk, this is the third reason. And jahalatul rawi, he is majhul. It means he is unknown. Jahala doesn't mean ignorance, that he is illiterate. No. Jahala means our jahala. Our jahala means the jahala of the ulama about his life. He is hidden, his life is hidden, he is not very well known. So nobody can comment whether he is trustworthy or not. because his life and details are hidden about his character, about the level of his integrity. He is an unknown person. That's why this is one reason. Fourth, so they cannot comment on him whether he is a trustworthy person or not, whether he possesses the higher level of memory or not, what is the level of his character integrity, since he is unknown, not very well known, or he is totally unknown. So he is not commentable. This is the fourth reason. And fifth is bid'ah. There is some innovation in his aqidah, some deviation in his aqidah. And who were Ahlul Bid'ah in the early days, in the first century of Islam, first century and second century and third century of Islam? The first Ahlul Bid'ah were Khawarij. All Aimma and scholars say without any disagreement that Khawarij were Ahlul Bid'ah. And who was the first Khariji in the days of Holy Prophet? Although the term was used in the days of Caliphate, the word Khawarij in the Caliphate, but Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in detail about them. And I have compiled a book on Khawarij, Al-Intibah lil Khawarij wal Harurah. And I have collected 60 ahadith from Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmizi and all books of Siyah and other books. 60 ahadith on Khawarij. The first Khariji in the days of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Khariji in sense, not in term, in meanings, the one whose thought became the basis of Khawarij. His was Abdullah Zul Khuwaisara at-Tamimi. He was the founder of this school of thought, the Khawarij. Abdullah was his name, Zul Khuwaisara at-Tamimi, and he was the first Gustakh of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He became disrespectful to Holy Prophet. He criticized on him in one meeting and went away. And Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, look at him. The people will emerge from his family, from his following. It means through his following, a group of people would emerge, and they will continue coming out till the day of judgment, till Dajjal comes out. From time to time they will be coming out again and again, again and again. They would be Khawarij and Al-Haruriyah. Al-Haruriyah, because there was a village, Harura, on the border of Iraq, and they shifted there when they disagreed with Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu and issued verdicts and fatwas against Sayyidina Ali and declared Sayyidina Ali Sher Khuda, Ali al-Murtaza, as mushrik and bid'ati. So this was the first fatwa issued by Khawarij against Sayyidina Ali, that he and his people, they have become mushrik and they have become bid'ati. So the language of Khawarij, whenever you find some people who are frequently using this word, this is mushrik and this is bid'ati, he is mushrik and he is bid'ati, they are mushrik and they are bid'ati, the one who frequently use this verdict, you may easily understand these people basically belong to the sect of Khawarij, who makes every person of Holy Prophet's ummah either mushrik or bid'ati. This is their language. So al-bid'ah, Khawarij. Then Rafidiyah or Rawafid, extremist Shias, and Murji'ah. These kind of aqaid, which were deviations in Aqidah Sahiyya Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they emerged out of the straight stream of Aqidah of Islam. That was As-Sawadul Azam, that was Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and these were deviations from the right path. These were deviatory emergences from the right path. And they were known as Ahlul Bid'ah. So if there is a Bid'ah in any transmitter, Bid'ah is also one of the reasons which makes hadith and chain of the hadith da'if. And I am going to tell you a very interesting thing, and that is the mazhab of Imam Bukhari. Mazhab of Imam Bukhari even, and many others. Imam Bukhari has taken many ahadith from Khawarij and from Shias and from Murji'a in Al-Jami' As-Sahih Al-Bukhari. And according to Imam Bukhari, he says hadith sahih can be taken from Ahlul Bid'ah if he is not a liar, if he is saduq. His viewpoint, Imam Bukhari's viewpoint is, now you would be shocked to know where Imam Bukhari, where does he stand in case of hadith, and where the so-called claimants of his followers, being his followers, what is their viewpoint. And this was again one of the criticism done against Imam Bukhari by certain imams, including Imam Darqutni. Certain imams, they criticized Imam Bukhari. And they mentioned nearly 80 or 100 ahadith. Near 80 to 100 ahadith in Jami' As-Sahih Al-Bukhari. And they pointed out that he reported related these ahadith, and there is a transmitter in his chain who belongs to Ahlul Bid'ah. Either he is a Khariji, or he is a Shia, or he is a Murji'a. And the answer, Imam Asqalani defending Imam Bukhari's position, and other A'immah, according to the madhab of Imam Bukhari, the answer was given that, for example, if hadith was taken by a Khariji, his Aqidah is wrong. His Aqidah is a bid'ah. He is misguided. But at the same time, there is an article of Aqidah in Khawarij theology that telling a lie is kufr, not a sin. Lying is kufr, according to the fundamental Khawarij, fundamentalist Khawarij. They consider that it is kufr. Fundamentalist Khawarij, he says, even if he is Khariji, but he is saduq and adil, he doesn't speak, he is saduq, he is adil, he doesn't lie. So transmission of a Khariji with these conditions does not make any difference on reliability and truthfulness and acceptability of hadith, because he does not believe in lying and he never lies, since he is saduq. And same can happen in case of a Shia. He is saduq, he is adil, and it is confirmed that he never speaks lie, he never speaks except truth. So if he is saduq, so we can accept his hadith. This is mazhab of Imam Bukhari. With another condition, if that particular hadith is not related to that article of faith which he possesses. If that hadith is related to his aqidah, there can be a possibility that his aqidah has influenced him in relating or transmitting certain thing. Then we will not take his hadith. So if the hadith which he has reported has no link with his particular article of faith, his aqidah, and he is a saduq and adil, so he reports from them, in spite of being ahlul bidah. So there is a great discussion in kutub of usulul hadith. So there are many things to be taken into consideration, not just this hadith is daif, so throw it away, we are not ready to accept. This is the biggest jahala and fitna and bid'ah of this time. The biggest bid'ah and jahala and fitna in ilm. They don't know what is the mazhab of Imam Bukhari, what is the mazhab of Imam Muslim. All these books of Imam Nawawi, of Imam Asqalani, Ibn Salah, everybody, chapters are written on this subject, chapters. Not only a single sentence, chapters are written on these subjects. And the first volume of Imam Asqalani, of Muqaddimah of Imam Asqalani, he has written the whole Muqaddimah, hundreds of pages in this book Imam Asqalani has written on this subject. Hundreds of pages, defending the position of Imam Bukhari and rebutting the criticism of Imam Darqutni. And where Imam Asqalani has said, Imam Asqalani has quoted a statement of Imam Bukhari that all ahadith sahih were not included and contained in Sahih Bukhari by Imam Bukhari. Imam Asqalani, the great, one of the greatest authorities on hadith, he has quoted Imam Bukhari himself on page 10 of Muqaddimah Sharh Sahih Bukhari, page 10. And the words are, he says that Imam Bukhari says, Annahu qal, Imam Bukhari said, Qala, kharrajtu sahiha min sitta mi'ati alfi hadith. I have compiled the book of Sahih Bukhari from 600,000 ahadith. When I told 300,000, 100,000 Sahih and 200,000 Ghairu Sahih, that number was given that I have learnt by heart. Now he is speaking that I collected, the total number which he collected are 600,000 ahadith. And I have selected this Al-Jami' as-Sayyid al-Bukhari out of 600,000 ahadith. And only 4,000 are contained in this book without repetition. And he says, قال لم أخرج في هذا الكتاب إلا صحيحا. Whatever I have reported in this book, that is definitely Sahih. And وَمَا تَرَكْتُ مِنَ السَّحِيهِ أَكْثَرُ. This is the statement of Imam Bukhari. The statement of Imam Bukhari. وَمَا تَرَكْتُ مِنَ السَّحِيهِ أَكْثَرُ. Imam Bukhari says, and whatever material from ahadith sahiha, whatever material of hadith sahih which I have left and I have not included in my Jami' as-Sahih, aksar, they are much more in number which I have taken in this book. Very large number of hadith sahih I have left, I have not included. And a small number out of hadith sahih I have taken in this book. But whatever I have taken is sahih. So what I was telling is that Imam Bukhari, this book of Imam Asqalani, hundreds of pages have been written by Imam Ibn Hajar Asqalani on defending the position of Imam Bukhari, on reporting and accepting the transmission from some transmitters who are truthful, who are trustworthy, who are pious and honest, but they belong to Aqidah of Khawarij, or they belong to Aqidah of Shia or to Murji'ah. Ahlul Bid'ah, this is the subject in it. And all books over here, Usulul Hadith, contain this subject. So these were the 5 kinds of ailments, 5 kinds of criticism on the trustworthiness of transmitters and on the memory of transmitters. So they become in total 10 kinds of hadith. And 6 I have mentioned kinds of hadith which were related to the criticism on continuity of chain. So totally there are 16 kinds of hadith da'if, and only 2 out of 16 have been declared to be rejected. That is Mawdu and Matruk. Even there is a discussion on Munkar. There is one category, Munkar. Some accept this, and some say with this condition it is also acceptable. So 14 out of 16, they have potential to be acceptable. And they are acceptable and they are receivable. with certain conditions, and only 2 are totally rejected. So you should be very clear if somebody, it is there written in book. When the muhaddiseen write, Hazar hadith da'if, or Hazar hadith da'iful isnad, now they don't explain. This is the work and responsibility of the scholars and the scientists and authorities to define what kind of da'af this chain possesses. They just write da'iful isnad. They will just write Hazar da'if. That's it. But a common man, now a common man with beard and jubba and with nice English and Arabic language, he has become a scholar. What we can do now in these days? A very nice, frequent scholar, speaker. But apart from his jubba and qubba and his avaya and his beard and his speaking power, in fact, in his inner self, he is just like you. He has just gone through few books. He has learned few hadiths and things by heart and few Quranic verses. And they have become muhaddis. And there are people known to be in certain part of the Arab world, but they are known to be al-imam fil jarh wa ta'dil and muhaddis. And one of them used to be the class fellow of Shaykh As'ad Sagharji. And he was then thrown away from the class. Or he left the class. And he became muhaddis, authority in certain part of the Arab world. Any hadith, any riwayah they find against their aqidah, they say mawdu, they say da'if, that's it. This is their standard. Even Imam Bukhari has quoted it. I would like to tell you that Imam Bukhari has not only Al-Jami As-Sahih, this is one book. He has sticked with certain very high standards of acceptability in this book. And he has written Al-Adab Al-Mufrad and some other books on hadith also. And whatever he has narrated in those books, they are also sahih. Because Imam Bukhari would never report any da'if hadith. This is his status. Whether he is reporting in Al-Jami As-Sahih or he is reporting in Al-Adab Al-Mufrad or in other books. But at least those hadiths would be sahih or at least hasan. He would never report any mawdu hadith. If he reports a mawdu hadith even in any other book, he is not Imam Bukhari. He is not Imam al-Muhaddiseen. And he is not Amir al-Mu'mineen fil hadith. If he takes mawdu hadith and he reports du'afa, the weak, no. If he has reported some hadith in other books, it means that hadith did not fulfill those particular qualities and conditions which we fixed for that particular one book, Al-Jami As-Sahih. And as he said, وَمَا تَرَكْتُ مِنَ السَّهِيهِ أَكْثَرُ, and all other ahadith sahiha which I have left and I have not included in this Al-Jami As-Sahih, they are much more in number. So what he has done, he has taken those ahadith sahiha in his other books. Did you understand this point? And there are people in this world, now I will tell you what is the standard, today's standard to declare any hadith sahih or to declare any hadith mawdu. Even this is reported by Bukhari, but it does not support their aqidah, or it is against their aqidah. They feel very free to declare it daif and mawdu. And they don't see that they are criticizing on Imam Bukhari's authenticity. They are blaming the integrity and reliability of Imam Bukhari. They don't bother. So they have no criterion, no standard, no basic unanimous principle which will stay equal everywhere. The only principle which they have in their mind is their own fabricated aqidah. Al-aqidah al-mawdu'ah. Al-fitna, which they have created and fabricated. If any hadith or tradition does not support their aqidah, which they have already occupied with, which they have fabricated, which they are preaching, which they consider that this is the only Sahih Aqidah in the world. If they find any hadith even reported by Imam Bukhari in other of his books, but against their Aqidah, they will throw these hadiths and they will never look at the face of Imam Bukhari. What would he feel? They are trying to correct him. They are correcting Imam Bukhari. Now, I am going to give you an example. This is book of Imam Bukhari, Al-Adab al-Mufrad. Very famous book. Popular in whole Islamic world. Whole of Islamic world. Al-Adab al-Mufrad. This is the book on Islamic manners and etiquettes. Book of Hadith. On Islamic manners and etiquettes. This is the original book. You can get everywhere in the whole world. English translations are also available. I am giving you just one example. And then you can multiply it with hundreds or you can multiply it with thousands. This I want to just exemplify, I want to just explain through an example that what has become the standard of verifying the hadith. Is it Sahih or Daif or Mawdu? No principle is acceptable to them except their own fabrication, their own nafs. So Al-Adab al-Mufrad of Imam Bukhari, chapter number 444. Chapter 444. Imam Bukhari. And now you will come to know about the Aqidah of Imam Bukhari too. What Aqidah did he possess? So that you may know whether you belong to Aqidah of Imam Bukhari or somebody else belongs to his Aqidah. You will just decide the matter in no time like this with one example. Then you will know what was Imam Bukhari. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Chapter number 444. Imam Bukhari Al-Adab al-Mufrad contains a chapter and heading of the chapter is Babu Takbil al-Yad. Kissing of hands. Chapter on kissing of hands. This is Aqidah of Imam Bukhari. Why? Because this is what have been taught by Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the teaching of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Imam Bukhari is bound to receive the Sahih transmissions from the transmitters, from Sahaba Tabi'in, and he reports the hadith which he finds that is Sahih. He would never report in any of his books a Mawdu hadith. Let me tell another thing here. If you discuss this matter with someone and he says, we don't accept it, this is not Jami' as-Sahih, this is Al-Adab al-Mufrad, although this is written by Imam Bukhari, but this is not Al-Jami' as-Sahih, another book. You may say, okay, we accept it, just for a while, for sake of argument. Then Imam Bukhari has not only written this book Al-Adab al-Mufrad, he has written some other books too. Then ask them to throw away all books which he wrote other than Al-Jami' as-Sahih. He has written a Risala on Raf'ul Yadain, Al-Juz on Raf'ul Yadain, raising of hands while entering in prayer, at the time of ruku, at the time of getting up from ruku, at various kneeling and getting up. He has written a booklet, Al-Risala on Raf'ul Yadain, Al-Juz. This is a famous book of Imam Bukhari. Lot many things which Imam Bukhari did not include in Al-Jami' as-Sahih. And the main source in favor of Raf'ul Yadain, raising of hands at all moments, which some people do, and Hanafis and some people, they don't do. So they take all substance and material from Imam Bukhari's book Al-Juz for Raf'ul Yadain, and it is available from Al-Jami' as-Sahih al-Bukhari. And then they base their view on Al-Juz. They quote Al-Juz of Imam Bukhari. Now here you will say, why, if you are not ready to accept Imam Bukhari's Al-Adab al-Mufrad, we are not ready to accept his Al-Juz. This is not Al-Jami' as-Sahih. You understand my point? There is another book written by Imam Bukhari that is also Al-Juz. It is a Juz, Al-Risala. And he has written another Juz on Al-Qira'ah Khalf al-Imam. And even if you are praying behind an Imam, whether you have to recite Holy Quran and Surah Al-Fatiha behind Imam, or you are not supposed to recite and you have to remain silent. On this subject, he has written in favor of reciting Al-Fatiha, Khalf al-Imam, even behind Imam. And be very clear in your mind, Imam Bukhari is our Imam in Hadith, not Imam in Fiqh. We don't follow him in Fiqh. He is not an authority in Fiqh. That's why there is no school of law in the whole world who follows Imam Bukhari in fiqh. There is no al-fiqh al-Bukhariya. There is no fiqh al-Bukhari. There is fiqh al-Hanafi. There is fiqh al-Maliki. There is al-fiqh al-Shafi'i. Fiqh al-Hanbali. There used to be fiqh al-Zahiri. Finished. There used to be Imam Awza'i's fiqh, mazhab. Finished. And originally in Lebanon and Sham, the Syria, the people in the early centuries used to follow Imam Awza'i. Now majority of them follow Imam Shafi'i. So they left Imam Awza'i. Whereas the people of early centuries used to follow Imam Awza'i. And he is buried in Beirut, Lebanon. Imam Awza'i was in the same time of Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, and he had a debate with Imam Abu Hanifa. So all these mazahib were demolished, eliminated, disappeared, except for Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i and Hanbali. There is no fiqh al-Bukhari. There is no al-mazhab al-fiqhi for Bukhari. No, nobody follows him because he is not Imam mujtahid mutlaq in fiqh. Although there is a viewpoint that he considered himself as mujtahid and Imam. There's one viewpoint. One viewpoint. Not all of them considered like that. But at least, no doubt, he was one of the Imam of Hadith, and he had a capability and ability and potential of deriving the legal effects and fiqh from Hadith. But Imam are Arba. Either we will follow Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, or we will follow in fiqh, in Sharia Ahkam, we will follow Imam Malik, Ahlul Sunnah. Or Ahlul Sunnah will follow Imam Shafi'i, or they will follow Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal. All of these followers are Ahlul Sunnah. Aqidah is same. Aqidah is same. Al-Shaykh Al-Allama Al-Hammami is Shafi'i in his Al-Mazhab Al-Fiqhi. Al-Shaykh Asad Al-Sagharji. We are Hanafi, but we have one and the same Aqidah. He is Shafi'i, we are Hanafi. Aqidah is one. Our great friend and son of my Shaykh in Hadith, Shaykh Muhammad bin Alawi Al-Maliki, rahimahullah ta'ala, son of my Shaykh, Shaykh Alawi Al-Abbas bin Abbas Al-Maliki, and he was in fact Shaykh of my father too. Shaykh Muhammad bin Alawi's father. I got Sama from him in 1963 from father of Shaykh Muhammad bin Alawi Al-Maliki in Haram of Makkah, Masjid al-Haram, from inside of Babu Salam. So we have one Aqidah, but he was Maliki. We are Hanafi, he was Maliki. Aqidah is same. I have lot many friends in Syria, in Egypt, in Halab, in Egypt, Emirates. As-Sayyid Ali Al-Hashimi, he has written some commentaries on Al-Muwatta of Imam Malik. He is Maliki, our friend. Aqidah is same. All of these, there are some Hanbalis, Imams in Huzur Ghawsul Azam, Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, my Shaykh, and every Shaykh of every Wali, and Shaykh of every Muslim. Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir Al-Jilani, he himself was Hanbali, and I am his murid. So maybe somebody may be Hanafi, maybe Maliki, maybe Shafi, maybe Hanbali, but Aqidah is one and same. So this is something different line. So he wrote a book, Al-Juz, on Fatiha Khalf al-Imam, Qira Khalf al-Imam. So if somebody says that I don't accept Al-Adab al-Mufrad because this is not the part of Al-Jami al-Sahih, you say okay, then reject all other books which he has written in favor of Raful Yadain and in favor of reciting Quran Khalf al-Imam. Reject everything. He would not be ready to reject those books which are in his favor. He will just reject those hadiths which are not in his favor. So criterion is the nafs, not the principles of hadith. So I am quoting Imam Bukhari from Al-Adab al-Mufrad, chapter 444, and heading is Takbilul Yad, kissing of hands. You know, there are some people or not who say kissing of hand is bid'ah. Do they say? So according to their standard, if kissing of hand is bid'ah, so what is Imam Bukhari? According to them, is he a bid'ati or not? If kissing of hand is bid'ah, according to this principle, does Imam Bukhari become Ahlul Bid'ah or not? According to their verdict, he will be Ahlul Bid'ah. According to us, he is not Ahlul Bid'ah, he is Ahlul Sunnah, he is our Imam. Because he never practices Bid'ah, he reports and practices Sunnah. So he has reported the hadith. Some Sahaba, a group of people came to Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm not going into the detail, just the relevant portion. After Salatul Fajr, they were sitting there. They had come back from some war. Say, Qulna nahnu al-farrarun. Qala antumul akkarun. You are not farrarun, you are akkarun. I'm not going into the detail. But the main point is, they said, فَقَبَّلْنَا يَدَهُ. In a public meeting, a group of companion Sahaba, they said, then we start kissing hands of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We kissed his hands. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah ta'ala has reported this hadith. I'm going to tell you that interesting thing. First of all, listen to Imam Bukhari. This is hadith number 972. You can write hadith number 972. Here is Imam Abu Bakr Al-Hafiz Abu Bakr bin Abi Shaybah, Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah, Kitabul Adab. He wrote a book of hadith on the same subject as Imam Bukhari did. He named Al-Adab al-Mufrad, and Imam Abu Bakr ibn Abi Shaybah, he is Shaykh of Imam Bukhari in hadith. Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah is Shaykhul Bukhari and Imam Muslim, both. He is Shaykh of Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim. Shaykhul Shaykhain. This Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah. He also wrote the same book on hadith, and his name, that's name is Kitabul Adab. And he has started his book. I am telling you, the Aqidah which you have and the practice which you have, and you are blessed with those practices. This was the Aqidah and practices of all Imams of hadith of early centuries. So this is not bid'ah. Those who deny and those who rebut it and those who negate it, their Aqidah is bid'ah. Imam Ibn Abi Shaybah, he started his book, the first chapter of Kitabul Adab. What I am saying? First chapter of Kitabul Adab, you see, he is writing Islamic manners and Islamic etiquettes. He is teaching Islamic manners and etiquettes. And he starts the subject of Islamic manners and subject of Islamic etiquettes from the first chapter, like Suratul Fatiha of Quran. The first chapter is Babu ma ja'a fir rajuli yuqabbilu yada rajul. First chapter is on the subject of kissing on of hands. This is the first chapter, kissing of hands. So it means that he starts the Islamic manners and etiquettes from kissing of hands. for akabir, for shuyukh, that this is the first etiquette, that whenever you meet your akabir, your shuyukh, you should kiss their hands. And not only the hands,